Hello, everyone. Welcome to When the Kids Go to Bed. Shh. We're here. We have a beautiful guest. I'm your host, Truly. This is another
Shells.
And we have our amazing guest, Aaron. He is from Raising Boys to Men. He's doing big things right now. We're so happy to have you on. Do you want to introduce yourself a little bit and tell us what you're doing?
That introduction was amazing, to be fair. But yeah, my name's Aaron. I run a page called Raising Boys _ to Men. All about co-parenting. Me and my two amazing boys. 2 children from 2 different women. I'm all about promoting positive co-parenting with, I guess, solutions. I think we can often complain about co-parenting, but where are the solutions? So that's what my page is all about.
It's a good page. We like it.
Yeah.
We enjoy. We interact.
You do?
Yeah.
You do?
When I first saw your page, I was like, wow, hallelujah. A man that's got sense, that is honest, that is actually talking about the difficult stuff and the whys. Because I guess for a woman's point of view, a mother's point of view, we're always seen as the nagging baby moms and the crazy baby moms and the this and the that. But you do kind of shed light on the whys of why men do certain things or react in certain ways, and it's really helpful.
Do you think that's rare then? Do you honestly think that's rare? As in, like, not a lot of men do that?
Definitely. It's definitely rare. I mean, because men don't really talk that much in the first place. So they're not really just willing to start talking about how they feel, let alone trying to explain how other men feel. Like, most men can't even articulate themselves. Sorry, guys.
That's rude. That's rude. That's rude.
Yeah,
she was being rude.
We're ending that here.
I'm just saying, like, most men, they don't even want to talk about how they feel, let alone try to analyze how most men feel. So yeah, I thought that was really helpful to see. And like I said, for women, we can be very caught up in our own feelings and experience that we can't really see the other side of it, or we assume that we know how men feel. Yeah. And we don't.
It's true. I think there's a lot of resentment sometimes.
Yeah.
And that can cloud opinions.
Yeah.
But now I'm excited to be here.
Good. All right. Well, to obviously keep in theme with what you're all about, okay?
Yes.
And obviously we're here for that too. So we'd like to talk today about co-parenting do's and don'ts. All right. So really our point is to see if we can help people learn what they should do and what they shouldn't do when co-parenting, because I'm sure we've all had our own journeys and sometimes we've done good things and maybe sometimes we've done things that we maybe shouldn't have done, or we look back and realize we could have done it better. Yeah. So let's start then with first topic, like communication.
Okay. In terms of how you should communicate?
Yes. So do we have are there any out there for you straight away that is a don't, like a form of you should not communicate like this?
Through the child.
Through the child. I was thinking that one as well.
Amen.
Yeah.
Through the child.
Through the child. I feel like it's the easiest thing to do when you don't want to talk to the parent, where it's kind of like pass a message through the child. But then that child could be passing 4 or 5 messages. And the child's hearing the messages and they're confused. You know what? Tell your mum this. Tell your dad this. What's that really doing to the child? When all it takes is, you don't even have to pick up the phone, write a message, send an email. But sometimes it's like, you know what, just tell your mum this. And I think that does more damage to the child than anything. I've been there though. Like, I've passed messages through my son, but that was on the basis that his mum didn't want to communicate with me.
I was just about to ask, so say like your other co-parent has blocked you on all platforms of communication, like, not to trip you up here, but how then would you go about navigating, communicating?
So some people might say it's a last resort to communicate through the child, but it's because that's what the point that they're at. They are at the point of last resort. So, you know, are there any times when we think it's okay? It's acceptable?
I don't really feel, it depends on what the message is, right? So if we're just talking about tell your mum next week I'm coming at 8 instead of 9, I think that's a harmless one. But when it's kind of like, tell your mum
not to do this and don't
not
do
to
that.
do this, or tell your mum to call me because she's got too many men around you or whatever. Like,
I mean, that's wild. I'm really hoping none of you people are
tell
doing
your mum
that.
she's a tramp. Tell your mum I said she's a tramp, and get those men out.
Imagine. Oh,
But there
God.
has to be boundaries and levels as to what we're doing. But I feel like as long as you've got access to collecting your child, surely there's a way to communicate with the mum. Even if it's, I don't know, I'd rather pass a note to my child.
I was just about to say that's something I've done. I've put like notes in the bag because I just refuse to talk to you.
Okay.
So here's the information that you need to know. Didn't really work for very long.
Can we just stop there for a second? Need to knows.
Yeah.
Who determines that? Are you determining what he needs to know? Or is that what he's asked to know?
This was in the middle of pure beef.
Okay.
Yeah. Flipped on both sides. Juicy beef.
Okay.
And it just was not happening. Nothing was working. Nothing I was trying was working. Being nice, being rude, being quiet, being silent. Nothing was working. So I was like, you need to know that they're at a club and they're finishing at this time. And if you come any earlier, you're going to be standing there for no reason. You're going to be cussing, like things like that. It was purely, in my opinion, need to know stuff.
I think need to know changes based on how you feel towards the person.
100%.
So like, you know, I know it does. I know. I know, but this is what I'm saying. Like,
It shouldn't.
I don't.
But it does.
That's not needs then. That's wants.
Well, I'm just saying, in my own personal experience, there's been times when it's like, when we're getting on, it's like, oh, he needs to know it's parents' evening tomorrow. And when we're not getting on, I'm like, he doesn't need to know it's parents' evening tomorrow. Do you see what I mean?
have the school's address, you have the school's email address,
Yeah.
you have the school's
Or
phone
not just
number.
that,
I remember
or you
that.
might have known, like, not even, and it's not even all, like, I've never really like excluded on purpose, but more things like, you already know it's parents' evening tomorrow, but I know from being in a relationship with you for how many years that you have a very bad memory and that you will forget, and that when we was together I would often remind you that it's
Prompt
tomorrow.
you,
So
yeah.
so it's not that I've not told you and I've excluded you, but I just know if I don't remind him tomorrow, there's a good chance he's going to miss it. But that would be based on if we're getting along, then I might send you a reminder. If we're not, then it's your own business. You should have reminded.
I suppose that's more
yourself.
decency then, right? in the sense of like he doesn't need, either way, that's not going to affect his relationship with the child. So I don't look at that as a need to know.
Yeah.
I look at something as a need is if I don't know this information,
It's gonna have a detrimental effect on what's happening.
Otherwise, everything is, you know what, I would like to know that. I feel like I should know that.
Yeah, because I feel like that's what a lot of men do though. I feel like a lot of men, because I've had this conversation before, particularly about the example I just gave, and men have said, but why? Why couldn't you just remind him? Why couldn't you? Why couldn't you? And it's just
why couldn't you just bloody remember? How about that?
But like you said, that would just be decency. That's nothing that I owe you. Like you said, it's not me being spiteful. It's not me actually affecting your relationship with your child. So like you said, that was just courtesy. But I've heard men say like, why don't you do that though? Why?
Yeah, see, for me, like, I've not been told that my son didn't go to school because he was ill. I've picked him up at the weekend and I've been like, oh, how you been? And he's been like, yeah, been good, but I didn't really go to school this week because I was ill. And in my head, I'm like, well, rare, no one told me.
Yeah.
But the old me goes kicking off. The new me, this new version of me, is like, okay, but you're all right now, yeah? And just keep it moving because it doesn't change my relationship with my son, whether or not I know that information. And if I did know the information, all I would have probably done is called him to see if he was all right.
Yeah.
But I now know he's all right, so...
It's been handled.
I would say that for me is what a co-parenting do is picking your battles. So not always, like it's something I've had to learn throughout my relationship is that, like you said, like there would be things that would annoy me and things that, you know, I have every right to be annoyed. Like you say you're going to come at, 2:00 to pick my daughter up. 2:30, you're not here. 2:45, you're not here. Like I had an argument with one of my friends, a male friend, who told me any time that has 2 in it is acceptable.
So
yeah, 2:52. No, 2:50. So he was saying if he says he's going to come at 2, literally any time up until 2:59 was acceptable. That's what he told me. He was like, Sherelle. So, because when I was getting so enraged, like, why is he not here on time? Like, he's late. And my friend was like, Sherelle, just chill. You know he's never going to be on time. Don't, like, because what I would do, obviously, would sometimes send a message and be like, where are you? You're taking their piss, blah, blah, blah. And I'll be honest, it's taken many years for me to now just be like, just don't say nothing. Like, don't get worked up every single time. This is going to happen every time.
I feel like there's a lot of heightened emotions the closer to the breakup. The further away from the breakup you get, I feel like the less emotions you have regarding the other person's behavior. I feel like in the first, let's say 2 years, roughly.
2 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
What was you thinking? 2 months?
I was thinking a couple months.
Nah.
Like, depending on how old the
Nah.
child is as well, though.
I think that for men, you lot detach quite quickly, I think, and you want the parenting relationship to just be like, yeah, like
When did
we're
this-
parenting now.
Sorry. When did this new you start arriving?
I would probably say Amari's 14, he'll be 15. So I'll say probably when Amari was around 9.
When did you break up? How old was he?
We broke up when he was like 1, like early.
So for a
doors.
good 8 years.
So 6, 7, 8 years.
Yeah,
So
she
like-
had the old version. She was co-parenting with the
No,
old version.
what I
of you.
mean is in the sense of when my second child came along from a different relationship, I kind of saw how we was able to co-parent,
Yeah.
and it was like I was able to kind of do things again and look at things through a different lens.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
then that made me kind of change, although it's not tricks, but what works with one isn't going to work with the other.
100%,
But I just
yeah.
realized the way I conduct myself is what's important. She can't determine the type of dad I am. What I do determines the dad I am.
Yeah.
And I think before, too much focus was on her. And I've said this all along. If I say co-parenting, immediately you're going to think of the other parent. Whereas co-parenting
It's about you.
is parenting.
Yeah.
Remove the co. Parenting is raising your child from infancy to adulthood, right? Ensuring all their needs are looked after. Co-parenting is doing the same thing, but your intimate relationship is no more.
Yeah, but it's you're parenting with someone else. That's what co means. Because otherwise, you're just being a parent.
It's a cooperation.
Yeah,
But
it means two.
But wait. So if you're in a relationship, you're still parenting with someone else, right?
Yes, exactly.
But you're not co-parenting.
No, but
are
you could, like, if I was talking to Tamsin, for example, I would say she's co-parenting right now with her partner. They are co-parenting together. So when I talk to her, I will say, are you co-parenting in a relationship or not in a relationship? Because you can
So then you're never parenting.
No, you're a parent. You're a parent.
Who's co-parenting?
Yes.
Constantly, yeah? We're going
Unless
to
you're doing
confuse
it-
the whole audience.
No, but unless you're doing it completely by yourself, like, maybe.
These are the views of Chells M only. Okay.
No, but I'm just saying, like,
I get what you're saying.
For me, I don't always think that parenting can be you parenting and them parenting. For example, sometimes two parents think, I'll do things my way and you can do things your way. But there's one child and now they're being parented by two people in two different ways. And you think what happens in your house is your responsibility and what happens in my house is my responsibility. But how do you know the effect that's having on a child? For example, if you've got two completely separate rules, you know, like you
But
go
that's
bed.
parallel parenting. There's actually a name for it.
I know, yeah. I'm not, and you know, it'd be good to talk about the pros and cons of that because I think it could be quite confusing for a child. Like, for example, my daughter will tell me things that happen at her dad's that she doesn't really like. And obviously I have to, you know, just look at like, if it's like something little, you know, I'm like, that's your dad's rule. When you're just same as if you went to nanny has her rules, like, do you know what I mean? And then there has been the odd time where I've kind of spoke up a bit about it. It's because she kept letting me know she was unhappy with it. Okay. And, you know, she's only small, 8. So I did try to encourage her that she should tell her dad herself how she feels about it, you know, and I tried to say to her, you tell mummy if you didn't like something I was doing. So, you know, tell dad. But I just couldn't really say that she's got the exact same relationship with both parents. She just, you know, obviously very comfortable with someone you see all day, every day. So I came to the point where I did say it to him, but obviously in a very respectful way. Of course. And yeah, like, and just literally, like, I tried to, you know, laugh it off, through a couple of LOLs in there, like, you know, like, just let him know, like, no, just so that he knew, like, and I even said, like, my intention is not to have a go at you. It's not to say you should change the way you're doing anything. I'm just really trying to be her voice. I'm just trying to let you know what she's saying. And he took it quite well. He literally was like, okay, fine. He was like, well, at first he was like, fine. I won't do that again. And I was like, don't get defensive. I'm just saying. But I just think sometimes saying that, two parents are separate and that you can do things your way and they do their things their way might not always work for a child who has to go in between two places and remember that when I'm here, I must do this, and when I'm there, I must do that.
I think for me, parallel parenting would be like last scenario, like worst case, in the sense of co-parenting, obviously you're working together. Parallel parenting, like you said, two separate households, two separate rules. That to me would be worst case scenario.
A nightmare.
Because after that, it's pretty much you don't see your child.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? That's before that stance. So.
And if parenting, obviously, if the purpose is to have the child's best interest at heart, then, like I said, we'd have to really dive into what are the pros and cons of parallel parking. But for me, parenting, it would have to be like, what are the pros and cons, really? So for me, I think is about two people doing it together. Like I said, not in a relationship, but you are both parenting the child.
I would say though, don't ever underestimate children. Yeah, because children, even in the same household, will know that mummy does something like this, or I'll likely get this response from mummy, and I know if I go to daddy, I'm gonna get a completely different response. So like something my partner and I, even we were talking about last night, is he done something with our son the other morning, and when he finished, I said to him, "Oh, why did you do that?" And he explained his reason, and I was like, "Well, have you looked at it like blah, 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 blah?" And he was like, "Well, T, that's how you do things. Like, I'm never going to see it like that. And I'm never going to be like that. I'm never going to handle it like that."
That's not me, innit?
Yeah. And I said to him, "Okay, cool." And we went back and forth about what we thought about it, whatever. And we agreed that the main important thing is you don't undermine me in front of him, and I don't undermine you in front of him. Now, yeah, we're going to both have our own ways of doing things, but we never let him know that in the moment when I'm doing something that you might not agree with, or you're doing something and I'm thinking, why are you being so soft or whatever, he never knows that. We talk about that aside. We talk about that.
So would we say that's a co-parenting don't? Like you said, like don't undermine, because I think especially like you're saying this from a point of view of being in a relationship with someone where you could have that talk, and you listen to his reasons and he listened. Imagine you're not together now, and one of the parents is doing something that you don't agree with.
The fundamental point is the communication should be the same. What you do, what I do, we should be able to talk about why it's different and how we're going to resolve.
But loads of people who are co-parents, they're not talking. They're not.
But if we're talking do's and don'ts, I think you should be able to go to the other parent and say, "This is my issue," or "This is what I've noticed." The child should never see, "Oh, there's a crack here." Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Because they can play. Yeah. Children will play you off. Like, you know what? Mum said this and mum didn't say that. Do you know what I mean? But the child's now seeing that there's a crack, and it's starting to actually find it.
How does this benefit me?
What can I get out of a little rug?
What can I get? You don't put me in this situation.
100%.
Let me see what I can get out of it.
But you know, when I was thinking about this, when you gave me the topic, do's and don'ts, the first thing that jumped in mind in terms of do, that I don't think a lot of people do, is set boundaries. I feel like we come we come out of that relationship, and I feel like as men, anyway, there's a bit of a claim of, because you said like men can kind of move on quite quickly, or that you said that. Yeah,
I did.
And I think that's because once you've had our child, we kind of look at it as like, oh, kind of got you there. Like, you can't really like go nowhere with my child. So we find a comfort in that and can kind of go off and do what we want and switch this off, where it's like, well, you're stuck. I'm not stuck, you're stuck. You're the one with the child, so I can go off and do this, but you're at a disadvantage. But I feel where there needs to be boundaries is, I've got friends like this. This is why I say, whenever I speak and say a lot of men, it's the men that I know of. Yeah. Because I've had men, no, not all men are like this. I'm not saying all men are like this, but a lot of men will look at the woman as something I can keep coming back to. Yeah, you've got my child, so I can come back to you as and when I feel like it, because you have my child. And if the woman doesn't put boundaries in place, that can go on for ages, ages and ages and ages. And I always say, how it should look should be how when you break up, your relationship should look the same, even if one of you got with someone else. So if you think about that, what often happens is people might be having sex, or their dad's coming round and staying late. If you then got with someone else, would those things be happening? The answer is no. So why are they happening now? Because we're comfortable and because no one set boundaries.
But how do you set boundaries? That's what I'm saying. How does someone set boundaries? Like, do you tell the other person, like,
No.
these are my boundaries,
No.
and you can't cross them? Or do you just tell yourself what the boundaries are, and then what happens if they do cross these boundaries?
It's, to me, you know each other well enough, right? So this is the first time I've met you both, right? But there's still a respect that I have. I'm not going to be in your space. There's certain things out of respect that you will have. If a man's known you long enough, he should know, you know what, I can't do certain things. Or if you've given him the impression he can, I feel that that's more on you, because you're giving the man this impression. A boundary could be, I said this the other day, the man doesn't need to know the boundaries you put on him unless he starts to cross them, in the sense of you might not pick up your phone after 8 o'clock and he might be calling you at 10, 11, 12 o'clock. But you have to be consistent with that, because if you pick up the phone to him once at 11 o'clock, he's now going to continue to call you at those times and think it's acceptable, because it doesn't look like a boundary. It just looks like, oh, you wasn't answering the phone on those occasions. Consistency, boundaries have to be consistent. But I feel like if you break up with the mother or father of your child, there should be kind of like distance. Like you shouldn't kind of, well, you know what, I'm going to come around every day still. You know what, because eventually those habits are going to have to stop, and then who's the bad guy?
Boundaries can, and that's the thing, things can change as well, because like the relationship, like I said, it depends on how old the child is. Like people might say, you know, sometimes the parent does come round and helps put the child to bed or bath the child, but it could be dependent on, if they're small, then maybe the dad does need to be quite involved because it's a little baby or something. If your child is 10, you definitely don't need to come round and bath them. Do you see what I mean? So it can, the relationship can change.
I feel like it depends on the ages of the children, and also the relationship that you had as well. If say like, for example, the dad was very hands-on in the relationship and the mum worked more than the guy, and now you're breaking up, but now the mum has the children most of the time, so the kids are in childcare for a lot longer and blah 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 blah, but you want to try and maintain an element of that bond with the father and the children,
or necessity, like maybe the dad doing all that stuff is how things have to be. Like I said, maybe dad has a freelance job, maybe he's able to pick up the kids, so it's not just bond, maybe that is literally the setup. Like he needs to be picking them up from school, therefore you need to be very interconnected.
Well, what I've said is, like, say for example you take your son football every Wednesday and now you break up, you should still take your son football every Wednesday. Like there's certain things that you shouldn't now stop doing because you're not together.
Exactly.
But whereas before you might have taken him football, gone back to the house, had something to eat,
stayed after,
chilled.
Of course, you can.
Now there's the thing of, I'm just going to take you football, drop you off, keep it moving.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, I had to put boundaries in because the blurred lines were carrying on for too long, and I wasn't comfortable. So I was like, no, this needs to stop. The time that you need to leave, it needs to be at a suitable time. And I just had it in my head, you're not staying here after 9 p.m. because you don't need to be here. And my children were young at the time. And I was like, it caused problems. But I was like, eventually when the conversation was happening, I was like, but you don't need to be here as their parent at this time. But like you were saying but some men want that availability with their mother of the child, so that they can have that access as and when they choose and as they please. And that's kind of what I feel like was happening. So I put the boundaries in place so that wasn't happening anymore.
I think though sometimes lack of boundaries is also like when the woman is still open to a relationship. Like, do you know what I mean? Like it's because you're not, because like you said, you put those boundaries in when you were thinking, I don't want this.
I'm done, innit?
I'm done. I don't want you in my house. But whether it's the man wants to get back or the mum still is open to this relationship, that's when it's all like your boundaries are not firm.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Oh, you can come round.
Yeah.
Oh, you're hungry while you're here. You're hungry. Like I never once.
And this
No.
is
Ask my baby father if he was hungry.
And this is the biggest thing as well. When you do enter a new relationship, and you'll hear about this all the time. Oh, my boyfriend is my baby father. There's drama. The only reason there's drama is because there are not set boundaries. When you have a man coming into a relationship, into a setup, and you haven't got it on lock with your baby father, it's gonna cause drama. You need to have them boundaries in place. Go on.
But wait, let me put my hand up. Yeah, let me
This
put
is
my
a
hand up.
confessional
Yeah.
moment.
No, but I feel like there's boundaries and there's routine.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about, that's another do for me. Have a routine in place. So when we're
Okay.
talking about boundaries, if there's no routine in place, if I get with someone, and there is no routine with her and her children's father, and it's very inconsistent, and that to me can cause a whole heap of trouble. And they're having to communicate more often. She's getting vexed.
Yeah.
He's trying to just pop round the house to see the child. There's no, I always say, I don't think a
mess.
I don't think a man should come into the house to spend time with his child. I don't think.
Interesting. I mean,
No.
I'm here.
I think
as well.
if a man's doing that, a lot of the time it's because he wants to be around the woman more.
What if the
Because
child's small?
If the child's one,
Like, you can't always take the. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes for convenience, like
Or money.
yeah, or even distance. Like some people live very close by, so it's like you could take the child to the park quickly. But sometimes it's like it might actually
An
not be
hour's
convenient.
drive,
Yeah,
yeah.
if you're
like,
if you're seeing a child like 5 times a week, you're going around 5 times a week. Okay, some of those occasions you might just pop in and spend time. But if you're seeing your child once every 2 weeks, and when you see your child, you're coming into the mum's house to go in the child's room and show the child nothing. Like, what are you really doing? Like,
yeah.
if
I mean,
we-
I'm not here for.
I
it.
agree with that
I'm not
as
here for
well.
it at all. Like I had that once, and it was so awkward and tense.
That's your space.
And I was thinking, can you get out of
Yeah.
my house?
Yeah.
Like I was in another room on the phone to my friend. Like, when is this man gonna leave? Like, it was just, I was not here for it all. Yeah, I definitely don't need. I'd rather struggle. I don't need you to help me bath the child, make the dinner. Do you know why? Because you never did any of that when we was in a relationship. That's why we broke up. That's why I broke up. Don't come here now telling me you're gonna help me bath the child.
but the man
Now all of a sudden you're Mr. Help.
No,
Mr. Fix It.
The minute you break up, then all of a sudden they're like, but I want to be in my child's life, and I
Oh,
want to.
shut up.
And it's like,
Shut up.
really? That's why we done, because you wasn't here.
But I feel like I keep saying that we should want that time with our child. So why do we not take the child away, go to the park for an hour, have that one-to-one quality time? The
Innit?
child,
Go get a milkshake. Like,
but I even say,
anything.
even if you've got 2 children, there should still be one-to-one
Time
quality
with
time
both
with
of them.
each child.
Yeah.
I feel like what some people do is, you know what, I've got 2 kids, let me just take them both.
Mix it,
Like,
throw
you
it
know,
all together.
And it's like, they don't know you
One is
individually.
12, one is 3, and you're trying to do one activity that the 12-year-old
I'll
does
tell
not
you
want
for
to
free,
do.
I got a 10-year gap between my older two, and it is a myth trying to go somewhere all as a family. It's long.
It's true.
It's not much activities you can do.
It's true. All right, another. What about in co-parenting? I mean, it might sound like a no-brainer, but what about personal attacks? Like,
Is that a do or don't?
is
Aaron?
it okay? No, but like, is it okay to attack the other parent if they're doing something you're not happy with?
But you use the word attack. That sounds dangerous.
Militant?
That
I'm just saying. I'm just asking. Like some scenario. Think about it. Like we all
It's
have our
personal experience,
No, we
by the
both
way.
know. What I'm just saying
Of
from
course it is.
our Instagram platforms.
course
Like
it
we
is.
have our platforms and stuff. There's been we have got times when people have written into us and scenarios like where they are in quite conflicting co-parenting relationships, and they're telling you like the dad is doing this, it's got like, do you know what I mean, he doesn't give me no money, he doesn't come and see his child. So what I'm saying is, in those scenarios, is it ever okay to really let that dad know like you're not good enough, you're this, you're that?
Okay, my question to back that would be, if you say that, does it change the situation, or does it make you feel better?
Probably makes the mum feel a lot better.
But for a split second, though,
Yeah, but
right?
it doesn't do anything.
It doesn't give you a
I had
solution.
the same conversation with my friend. It doesn't do anything at all.
It's like you vented. It's like, okay, cool.
And now what?
Now you just look like a crazy baby mum to the dad.
Yeah.
But at least it's off your chest.
It's not
Do you know
even
what I mean?
about looking like a crazy baby mum. I feel like when you're communicating, it should have a point. What's the purpose of this communication? Because it ain't to get back in my knickers. It ain't to ride on top of you anymore. And it's not to date you. So it has to be something to do with the child.
Yeah,
so
you
get
need
to
know
the point.
something.
Yeah,
You need to
there's so
provide
many ways
something.
to vent. There's so many ways to exert your resentments and anger and frustrations. Talk to people, run, whatever. Go and do what you need to do to get it off your chest, because it's not good sitting with you. However, the other person ain't trying to hear you. The other person just wants to parent their child. So, yeah.
Well, I'm just saying from a mum's point of view, you may be they just might be emotional. Like, you might be upset and angry at the situation, and it might make you feel better. You might think, I have no control. I can't change the dad. I can't make him pay. I can't make him come and see the child. So you may just think, this is giving me a little bit of control by expressing how I feel. I'm just
Yeah,
saying
no. And you're well
saying
within your
don't
rights to feel
advocate.
how you feel, but
Like you said, I mean, I'm
What's
not
the
sure
purpose?
what benefit would come from it.
It won't. And then if he comes back at you, then what?
Screaming match.
There you go. I feel like
And
you've been
no
in a
one
few of
wants
those.
that.
Screaming match. Okay.
confessions to end.
Okay, we're running out of time. Who has got a confession of a co-parenting example
Don't.
that
Not for don't.
that maybe you look back now and think, I shouldn't have done
Let's
that?
ask Aaron, because seeing as this is a new you.
To me,
What was one of the things the old Aaron did?
silly things like repetitive missed calls. like if I
You rang.
You know what?
I
Men
will
don't
ring-
have no shame with this, you know.
like,
They'll bang off your phone.
Listen, like I will ring. She hasn't answered, yeah. So then in my head it's like, all right, maybe she didn't see that one, innit? So let me ring again. And then before you know it, you got 4 missed calls from you, but now you're vexed. There's 4 missed calls, so you're like, no, she's got to answer the 5th one. Before you know it, there's 12 missed calls.
And do you leave any voicemails?
No, there's not voice. There's texts though. There's
texts in between
Abuse.
the missed calls.
But there's
Abuse.
texts with no response, but I'm still texting. There's missed calls. It's just like, you know
That's
what?
very embarrassing.
But it's a black hole. Once you go in, you can't get out. And then what you was worked up, what you wanted to talk about originally is,
It's
can I
gone
get
from
my
your
son
mind.
early?
It's far from your
And
mind
now
now,
you're
innit?
just vexed about everything.
Yeah.
Like, to me, 1 missed call, men, if you call your baby mum and she don't answer, she'll call back if she wants to. Otherwise, she don't want to talk to you. Just
Leave it.
leave it.
Good.
Or a simple message, call me.
I really appreciate you sharing that, because that was embarrassing for you.
Oh,
Been that guy.
bless you.
I've been that guy.
At least you're a new man now.
New man.
Yeah.
New man.
Yeah.
New
I
man.
don't allow myself to get worked up over things that, like you said, have no purpose. If there's like, I feel like often us as men, we get so worked up about things that don't actually affect us parenting our child. And if we just focus on that, is this going to affect me seeing my child at the weekend?
Yeah.
Is this going to affect me speaking to my child? Now, I've always said this, if you go 2 weeks without speaking to the mother of your child, will you still be able to pick up your child when it's time
On
to?
your set day.
If the answer is yes, relax.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
That's
not,
a good bit
That's
of
a good-
advice.
that's a good-
Yeah, it's a
yeah,
very good
that's a
bit
word.
of advice there.
That's a whole sermon in itself.
I'll do what
Nice.
I can, ladies.
All right. Well, I think obviously we could talk about this a lot, and there's lots of
We'll have you back on soon.
there's
100%.
lots of co-parenting do's and don'ts,
Yeah.
and it's all a journey, and you're never going to get it right. And sometimes you have to reflect back, and it could be literally, you could be reflecting literally on something you did yesterday, something you did the week before, or a year ago. But the point is, reflect and just continue to see if you can try and stay with the do's rather than the don'ts.
And sorry to just jump in. Be mindful of how you speak about the mother of your child to your boys.
To the
I just
kids,
wanted
you
to
mean?
say, I feel like
Another
we've all
word.
been there. I feel like
To the man them you're talking
to
about.
the man them or to whoever, like it's still like,
Women do it too. Women
yeah,
do
but
it
I
too.
feel like your child's gonna get old at some point, yeah, and they might hear certain things that have been said from
Yeah.
other people. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
no matter how much she gets on your nerves or no matter how much he gets on your nerves, there's not really a need to go bad mouthing them to other people, because that's still your child's mother or
Yeah.
father. So
Yeah,
just
definitely
be
good.
mindful of that, people.
Definitely good bit of co-parenting advice there.
So me to you now. So obviously through our co-parent journeys, right, we've all made mistakes. We've all learned a lot of lessons. But what I'm interested to know is if you could go back to day one of your co-parenting journey, is there one thing you would do differently? That one major thing that you're like, if I did that, I feel like it would have made the whole thing smoother.
I'll kick off. Okay.
Go on.
One thing that I would call a regret.
Okay.
Okay, that I did, that I think had a massive impact over time, at the time, and then throughout, the journey, is I stopped my daughter's dad from seeing her one time. One time I overreacted.
Just once?
Yeah, just once. I only ever did it once. I overreacted and I stopped him from seeing her just on this one occasion. I just said, you can't take her. No. And at the time I felt it was justified. I probably now could still justify it if I had to, but I have listened to him and on how he felt. And I just think if I could go back, I wouldn't have done it. It wasn't needed. It wasn't, do you know what I mean? It wasn't for the benefit of my child in any way. And it may have had a much better impact and really not probably made him hold such feelings against me for such a long period of time for that thing that I did.
Just on that, do you feel like that affected your child when you did that?
I don't think it did. I really don't.
No?
She had no idea. She just didn't go with her dad that day. She wasn't really that bothered. No, I don't. But I think what it did to him, and then what it would do to then build up back to a point of, trust and nice and all that.
Trust down,
yeah, it wasn't necessary.
So how would you have dealt with that same situation now? Just because obviously I'm assuming there was a reason.
Yes. Now I would. So the one bit of advice I would give to the old me is that I am not more. I don't have more priority over my child than the father. Like I do not have any more entitlement or rights or anything like that. So when it comes down to him visiting his child or having access, it's got absolutely nothing to do with how I feel about him or how the relationship is going. Like, yes, I may look after the child more, but I have absolutely no more entitlement.
That's big. I feel like I'm proud of you for that.
Hello, proud daddy.
T, what about you?
My thing was romanticizing the possibility of us getting back together for too long.
Okay.
Because in my mind, I knew that the relationship wasn't working. It had popped down a couple of times, tried to revive a couple of times, and it just wasn't. And I knew within my heart that was the best thing, not only for us, but for the children.
To not be together.
But I think I just held a little bit of, I don't want to be a single mom, and I don't want my kids to not wake up with their dad in the house. And so I did the blurred lines thing for too long. And I wish that I had just accepted that this is what it is. Let it go. You're going to be way better parents and have a way better relationship with him for the children than all this back and forth. 1 minute is a yes, 1 minute is a no. I'm giving mixed messages. He's giving mixed messages. We're both emotionally just entangled in this crap for way longer than we need to be, when really the kids could just benefit from us just accepting that it's over.
How did you put an end to it?
I just started putting in boundaries with timing, phone calls after certain times, certain time you need to leave now. I just got to the place in myself that I was just like, no, I can't do this anymore. I don't know, a light bulb just kind of switched.
Yeah. Can I ask, did he, when you did this, did he realize straight away that like something's changed and there's some
he could see that the changes were happening, but he didn't want it to. So he
pushed back a little bit.
Yeah, he gave me a bit of pushback, which caused a bit of drama. And you said before that, when you're putting in boundaries, you don't always need to shout it from the rooftops and make a point about it, because it can cause further issues. Why are you making announcements?
Yeah.
You're not the guy from TFL over the speaker. It's not necessary. Just do what you need to do, and eventually everyone will fall and find their footing. Because as much as I'm putting in boundaries for myself, you've now got to put your own boundaries in. Yeah. So I had to then, you know, just look from a distance and say, okay, whilst I'm doing this and he's getting a bit vexed about it and pushing back, he's now going to do things that's going to try and retaliate and prove a point to me. But my thing was never just to prove a point. It was more, I've got to protect my peace because I'm with these kids 99% of the day. And I'm also studying and I'm also working and I'm also blah, 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 as a mum. So I've got to have peace. So for me, it was more about that. Eventually, we did have conversations when we weren't as vexed with each other, and we've been pretty good since.
You know what? Mine's similar to yours in the sense of when Amari was younger, I felt like, no, we have to do everything as a family. So I think it was his second birthday, and we went to like Chells and Zoo. And if you look at the pictures, no one was happy.
It was by force.
Like, I reflect back now and I just remember, I think we went Pizza Hut and me and his mum.
And you thought you was creating a wonderful
like,
memory for your child.
Be so happy that mum and dad are together. And mum and dad weren't talking. Like I didn't even want to eat for too long. Like it was just, it would have been so much better for Amari to have had a great moment with his mum and a great moment with his dad. But it was like, no, we have to, for the child, do everything together.
Don't you think that derives though from your own childhood of not maybe having your own parents together and then having this sense of feeling of a failure that your family hasn't worked? Because that's what it was for me. And I don't know about a guy, but especially for a woman, that's what is a big thing.
I think it was, if I'm honest, a bit of competitiveness as well, in the sense of, well, who gets him? Do you know what I mean? Like, well, who's gonna? Like, I want to do Cheselton with him. No, you want to do Cheselton. Okay, no, we need to do it together. And it's kind of like accepting that certain things.
It's not a battle.
You can make your own memories with your child.
There's enough things to do. There's
There's
Cheselton, there's Legoland, there's enough places. You don't have to. I get you. That's a good one. All right.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thanks for joining us on our brand new podcast.
Brand new.
When the kids go to bed.
No, it was good. It was good having you. Thank you for coming.
Cheers.
And congrats, ladies.
Thanks.
Thank you.